Hey, this is Lewis from SoFly. You're watching part 2 of the video series on designing web pages from scratch with Oxygen. I've already added my header, so now I'm going to go ahead and add a hero section. So here's my section. I'm going to go to the More tab, Background, Image, and then I'm going to go ahead and upload my hero background image. I built this with Placeit. Okay, here is the background image. We can't see much of it right now because the hero isn't big enough. So I'm going to go ahead and add some padding on the hero section. And now we're going to add in some headlines. So I'm going to go add heading, and I'm going to align everything in the section to the right. So I'm going to go back to the section just by clicking anywhere in it and aligning it all right. And now I'm going to enter in my heading text. So now I'm going to make the font white, and I'm going to make it much bigger, say 48 pixel and 900. Maybe this headline's a little too long. Okay, there we go. Whenever I put white text on a white background, I mean, obviously you can't do that, but I don't want to use black text. I don't think it looks that great. I think white looks better here. So what I'm going to do is put a semi-transparent black background on this text. I'll just go to black and then drag this down to something that looks good. All right, that looks pretty good right there. And now I'm going to add some padding so the background is a little bigger than the text itself. So we'll go 12 on all sides. And right now the headline is displayed as a block. That's going to mean it's full width. It's going to be as wide as the container that it's inside of. We're going to change this to inline block, and that's going to make the heading only be as wide as the content inside of it. So now we've got our text. I'm going to make the text look a little better, actually. I'm going to put a shadow on it. So I'm going to go text shadow, 1 pixel, 1 pixel. It's going to be 1 pixel from the left, 1 pixel from the top, 2 pixels of blur, and now we're going to make it black with some transparency. And then I'm going to add a second shadow that just gives it a little more pop. So I'm going to make this one centered on the text, 0 pixel, 0 pixel, 10 pixels of blur, and then I'm going to make this black as well. That's probably a little too much, not enough, too much. There we go. So you can put in any custom CSS you want in this CSS and JavaScript section. If we don't have a visual control for it over here, you can just put in the CSS manually right there. Okay, this is pretty good. I'm now going to duplicate this because I want 2 subheadlines, and I'm going to put some margin on the bottom of it so they're not right, touching each other. So 12 pixels of bottom margin, and I'll duplicate this a couple times, and then I'll make the font smaller for these subheadlines. 30 pixels, 30 pixel, 400, and 30 pixel, 400. Okay, now you'll notice that these are now lined up next to each other. That's because they're inline blocks. If I made them blocks, they'd span the full width, but if I made one of them block, it'd span the full width. The problem is I don't want this. So a trick you can use is to just set margin on one of these things to make it so wide that it can no longer fit. So I'm going to go ahead and set the margin I'm just going to start increasing the margin until it doesn't fit anymore. Yeah, there we go. That's fine. Okay, now I'm going to enter in my awesome subheadline text. Okay, now we've got our headlines and our subheadlines. Let's go ahead and tweak this background image a bit so we get it kind of fitting how we want. So I'm going to click the section to go back to the section. I'm going to go to background, tiling and position, and we're going to manually size this background image. I'm going to set we're just going to play around with different sizes. That's too big, and then I'll just use the arrow keys to shrink it down. Well, maybe I'm nowhere in the ballpark. Basically, I want the laptop to be to the left of the text. So that's pretty good. And then I want to maybe move it around a little bit, maybe move it up, -10. Yeah, that's pretty good. Now we can see the laptop to the left of the text with a screenshot on it. So that's cool. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and add a button below these headlines. So I'm just going to go add, and I'm going to add a text link, and this is going to be our button. So we're going to have to do the margin trick to get this out of the way again. So I'm just going to go position, size, margin. There we go. That's enough. And I'm going to make this a green button that's the same color as the login button. So I'm going to copy this green. I'm going to set that to the button background color. I'm going to make the text white. This is going to be a big call to action button. So we're going to make the font, let's say 24 pixels, weight of 700. And then we're going to put some padding on it. So let's go with, let's try 15 and 25. Probably not quite as big as I want. Click my awesome button. Yeah, let's make it a little bit bigger. Let's go with 20 and 30. Okay, that looks pretty good. We're going to put some radius on that button. So we'll go to borders, border radius, add 3 pixels of border radius to just make it look a little more like a button. And now we're going to add a border around the button. So we want, when we're having a button on a light background, it's good to make the button border match the color of the button, but be slightly darker. So to do that, we're just going to make a transparent black border that's going to overlay the button. So we'll go 1 pixel, solid, black, and then we're just going to slowly turn up the transparency until it looks how we want. And that looks pretty good right there, 40% transparency. So there's our button. I don't think this button looks very cool because it's flat, so I think we should make it 3D. So to do this, I'm going to use CSS. I'm going to go to CSS and JavaScript. I have a complete tutorial on 3D buttons on the YouTube channel as well, but I'm just going to do this quick. You go box shadow, and you want sort of a light shadow at the top and a dark shadow at the bottom. So at the top, 0 pixels from the left, 1 pixel from the top. I'm going to add a white shadow, little transparency. Sorry, I need to put the blur in. 0 pixel from the left, 1 pixel from the top, 1 pixel of blur. And there's our, oh, and it has to be inset, which is inside the button. So inset, 0 pixel, 1 pixel, 1 pixel. Okay, there's our top shadow. Looks okay. And then I'm going to go ahead and add the bottom shadow, which is going to be darker. So it's like the light is coming from the top. So this one's going to be inset 0 pixel, -2 pixels coming from the bottom, so negative pixels. This one's going to be black with maybe a little less. This one needs some blur as well. Maybe 2 pixels of blur. That's way too extreme, so we'll tone down the transparency. Maybe a little more blur. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now the button's looking a little bit more 3D. One other thing I'm going to do is just add a transparent gradient to the button to make the it slowly get darker all the way down the button. So I'm going to go background image, linear gradient. It's going to start at just pure transparent black, and then it's going to end at all the way black. Now that's obviously too extreme, so I'm just going to tone this down until it looks how I want. Okay, that's pretty good. Now the button looks 3D. Nice. Now we got a nice header. We got a nice hero section. One other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a caption to describe what this image is right here. So I'm going to add a text block, and I'm going to make the text white, and I'm going to put the same text shadow I use on this over here on this text. So I'm going to copy this text shadow and copy it over here. That's going to make it a little more readable. That's if you want to use white text on a black background or on a light background, you can also just put a shadow behind it. That'll make it more readable. Now I want to move this. I want to position this absolutely. I don't want to just let it be positioned over here or wherever I could do with the alignment. So what I'm going to do is use absolute positioning. So I'm going to go to position and size, position absolute, and now we can just specify exactly where we want this. 20 pixels from the top, 100 from the left, 300 from the left, whatever. Now absolutely positioned elements are positioned absolutely relative to the parent element that has positioning. So I'm going to set this to be the section to be positioned relative. And now if I put in 10 pixel, 10 pixel, it'll be positioned 10 pixels from the top and 10 pixels from the left. So now I'm going to just get this basically exactly where I want it. And then I'll just tweak the font size. And that looks pretty good. Okay, now we have our hero section. One finishing touch I'm going to do is change the text rendering setting. Dark text on a light background in most modern browsers looks pretty good. But white text on a dark background doesn't always look so good. So for this section, since we only have light text on dark backgrounds, I'm going to manually adjust the text rendering setting. So we go WebKit, font smoothing, anti-alias. The default setting is subpixel aliased, I think. I don't know how to, it's just a default setting. We're going to use anti-alias. As you can see, that just kind of thins out the fonts, makes them rounder, a little bit more readable. So here's it without, here's it with. Looks a little bit better. Okay, there is our hero section. In the next video, I'm going to show you how to make this one responsive, and then in the video after that, we'll move on to the icon boxes below this. Okay, thank you for watching. See you in part 3.